Hello, my name is Fox and you're watching Den of Fools. Let's jump right in. As a first in a potential new series, today we're doing a faction spotlight on the Space Marines in 10th edition 40k. I'll briefly go over the main army rules before covering individual units and chapters when we look at some Space Marine lists, which have performed well at grand tournaments. We of course will look at the stats for the individual chapters as well. As it is a first in a new series, we would really value your feedback in the comments. We have seen the Space Marine previews at the Nova Open, including the Space Marine Codex alongside the awesome new models. We are not anticipating a wholesale rewrite of the unit, and of course the Gladiator attachment will be in the new Codex, alongside 6 more detachments to represent the first founding chapters. We have included coverage of the unique units and detachments of the divergent chapters, which will remain the same until they get their new Codex. With that said, let's briefly look at the army rule. As I am sure many are aware, the Space Marine's Oath of Moment allows you to pick one target at the start of your command phase. Your entire army gets full rerolls against that target for the rest of the turn. It is a potent ability which allows the Space Marines to focus fire to take down big targets. In my opinion, it works great against factions such as Imperial Knights, as they are tough units which usually are hard to wound, so the rerolls will be very useful. They also cost a lot of points. It's perhaps a little less effective if your opponent has multiple smaller units, such as the very competitive Gene Stealer armies, which take many units of acolytes. The other rule, which affects all Space Marine chapters, is when you want to include chapter-specific units. Some units have a chapter keyword, and you cannot mix any chapter keywords together. For example, if you want to take Dante in the Space Marine list, all your army must be Blood Angels, and you cannot take another Space Marine unit with a different keyword, such as the Ultramarine keyword Gulliman has. With that said, let's look at how the chapters are doing in 10th at the moment. Here we have all the top 10 placings for the Space Marine chapters with more than 10 players in 10th so far. The most popular chapter, the Dark Angels, get the most top 10 placings with 214. The Ultramarines are the second most popular, and they have the second most top 10 placings with 195. We do see a trend as predictably, the more times an army is played, the more opportunities they will have to get a top 10 placing. The unknown faction are the Space Marine players who did not declare their chapter. We are assuming they are all index Space Marines. We see a good representation from each of the chapters with their own indexes. We have found a list for each of these chapters to look at. A special mention to the Deathwatch, who only have one less win than the Dark Angels, although they have nearly half as many players. This shows that they are doing particularly well, as we will see when we look at the win rates. Likewise, the Blood Angels get a lot less wins, although they have a similar number of players as the Deathwatch, showing that unfortunately, the Sons of Sanguinius are not doing too well in 10th. As we alluded to, the Deathwatch are the most successful chapter in 10th so far with a win rate of 52.3%. The Blood Angels are unfortunately struggling with the lowest win rate of the known chapters, with 39.5%. We will look at a top placing Deathwatch list, so we will go more in depth on their rules in that section of the video. We do see 4 Codex chapters in the Goldilocks zone, so the Space Marine Index has the potential to get around the 50% win rate mark. These chapters do not see a large amount of representation however, and most of them are towards 45%. Most Space Marine players are outside the Goldilocks zone, with the majority of chapters below a 45% win rate. The most popular chapter, the Dark Angels, are the closest to 45%. We have them on a 44.2% win rate. We will look at a Dark Angels list to see an example of an army which can do well. In GW's recent win rates, they had them at 45%, so I would be surprised if they get any buffs to improve their performance. They'll be the first of the Divergent chapters with their own codex, so won't have too long to wait for a rules update. The Black Templars get a win rate of 42.6% and are outside the Goldilocks zone on GW's official win rate, meaning they may well get some buffs in the next balance update. They have had single weeks where they have got close to a 50% win rate, so can do well. They are the third most popular chapter with a very nice updated Primaris range. I would imagine this saw an influx of new Black Templar players, who will not be as experienced with the faction. It could also be that the cool Primaris Black Templar units are not that competitive. For example, the Black Templar list we will look at does not take any of those units. The Space Wolves run a win rate of 42.2%, GW have them significantly higher on a win rate of 46%, so again I doubt they will get any buffs. Their detachment rule is just too difficult to achieve, and I think it could do with a rules rewrite. The Sagas give good buffs, but are pretty difficult to fulfill as it has to be done by a character model. If it was simply changed to allow the unit a character is leading to complete the sagas, it would make it much more viable in my opinion. It would also keep with the same theme of great heroes writing sagas as the character is leading the unit. It would still be reasonably difficult, as you only have that battle round to achieve the particular saga. Fearless's favourite Blue Boys, the Ultramarines, get a win rate of 41.9% and are the second most popular chapter. They have a wide range of unique characters and a few units, such as Rabute Gulliman himself. They were tipped to be the strongest of the Codex chapters, as they have the exact same tools, with access to some strong, unique characters. However, that has not been the case, with them only managing a 41.9% win rate in 10th. As the poster boys of 40k, it is quite possible that they have more new players than any other chapter. There of course will be players who are very experienced and are doing well with the faction. We did find a well-performing Ultramarine list, which did include the Primarch. Finally, my Blood Angels are struggling in 10th, only managing a win rate of 39.5%. Their detachment rule is not particularly exciting, and I personally feel they missed the +1 to wound in melee for all units. They do still have access to it and lethal hits on one unit via the Red Rampage stratagem. GW have acknowledged that the Blood Angels are struggling, so hopefully they do get some buffs in the next balance change. I do think they have suffered from the general trend of highly mobile melee units being relatively expensive in 10th. Overall, the Space Marines are not doing the greatest in 10th, but with so many options available to them, they can make lists which can do well. It could well be that they are struggling significantly against the stronger factions in 10th. I would imagine they do not fare well against the Mortal Wounds of Eldari, and the Custodian Guardian Spear is a very good profile for Marines. It'll be interesting to see what their codex brings. With that said, let's look at some army lists which have done well with the current Space Marine rules. Starting with the Iron Hands, we have the list which went 6-2 and got 14th at the Tacoma Open, GW's massive 358 player tournament. This is a great result by Michael Blanchett. They beat 2 Knight players, 2 Thousand Suns players and 2 Chaos Demon players. Somewhat predictably, both of their losses were to Eldari. This list really emphasises the strong vehicles the Space Marines have access to, and is suitably Iron Hands in style. Predictably, for a nearly all-vehicle list, the Warlord is a Primaris Tech Marine. It is interesting to note that even though they had access to Ironfather Ferios, they decided to run the standard Tech Marine instead. They take the Artificer Armour Enhancement to give them a 2+ armor save and 5+ feel no pain. The Tech Marine gets the lone operative ability when within 3 inches of a vehicle, meaning they can't be targeted outside 12 inches. I would imagine he did not lead a squad, and instead stuck by the big tanks. They can give one vehicle within 3 inches of them a +1 to hit, while also restoring D3 wounds. I'd imagine they were in close proximity to the Astraeus for as long as possible. The massive 525-point forge-wheel tank is the ideal target for a +1 to hit, making all of its guns hit on 2s rather than 3s. It moves 10 inches, so I would imagine you would have to be reasonably careful with how you would move it, as the Tech Marine needs to be within 3 inches and can only move 6 inches himself. It has toughness 12, a 2+ save and 5+ invul, which protects 24 wounds of tank. It also has an OC of 8, which would be pretty useful if it happens to be on an objective. With the Tech Marine assumingly restoring D3 wounds each phase, I would imagine it was very tough to take down. The twin macro accelerator cannon makes 12 shots out to 74 inches, with sustained hits 1 and twin linked. It has strength 9, AP -1 and flat 3 damage. The relatively low strength and AP will hurt it against vehicles, but is a very good profile for elite infantry, such as Terminators or Custodians. To help with armor, it is equipped with 2 Astraeus Las Rippers. They make 2 shots at the Las Cannon profile of strength 12, AP -3 and D6 +1 damage. That's 4 shots from the Las Rippers, and another from the twin Las Cannon, which can re-roll its wound roll, making it a big threat to armor as well. It also has some Stubbers and Storm Bolters for a bit of anti-light infantry fire. I'm sure the Astraeus was a good target for the Storm of Fire stratagem, given its weapons ignore cover and an extra AP -1 in the Devastator Doctrine. Very useful for the main cannon in particular. The Devastator Doctrine would be useful if it ever needed to advance and shoot, but it may well end up leaving the Tech Marine behind if it was following it around. Next we have 3 Repulsor Executioners. They are toughness 12 with a 3+ save and 16 wounds, so not the easiest to take down. Their Heavy Laser Destroyer hits on 3s with Heavy, making 2 attacks at strength 16, AP -4 and a big D6 +4 damage. It also pumps out a whole load of anti-infantry shooting, with 12 shots from the Onslaught Gatling Cannon at strength 6 and damage 1, but with devastating wounds. It also has the Defensive Array and Stubber, which dish out a load more strength 4 1 damage shots, for a total of 16 within 18 inches. The Rocket Pod makes D3 attacks at strength 8, AP -1 and 2 damage, a good profile for Marines. It also has Anti-Fly 2+, which is very useful against anything with the fly keyword. Its special rule gives it +1 to hit against units below half strength, so I would imagine that they were not the main target of the Tech Marines buff. The last of the big armor pieces, we have 3 Gladiator Lancers. The small arms are essentially the same as the Repulsor, but there is much less of them. It has the same profile, but due to its smaller size, it has toughness 10 and 12 wounds. Its Laser Destroyer is slightly worse, with a similar profile, but strength 12 and D6 +3 rather than D6 +4 damage. This is still a relatively fearsome weapon, and the Lancer's special rule, which allows it to reroll 1 hit, wound and damage roll when it attacks, makes it especially potent. No wonder they managed to beat 2 Imperial Knight players with all this anti-tank firepower. They also take 3 squads of Infiltrators, which are very useful units. They can forward deploy and have a deep strike denial of 12 inches. They take the Helix Gauntlet to give the unit a 6+ feel no pain. They also take the comms array, which can restore a CP on a 5+ when you use a stratagem on them. I imagine they were used purely to score primary and complete secondary objectives, while the tanks provided the damage. This fun list is a great example of what vehicles are doing well, and we will see repeats of everything bar the Australians in several of the following lists. Daniel Paolini got second at the ATC warm-up, a 60-player tournament, going 5-0. They face Guard, Space Wolves, a Knights player, Tyranids, and finally another Knights list. They take a Primaris Apocryphy with the Bolter Discipline enhancement. This is a popular choice from the Gladius Strike Force detachment. It gives the unit the bearer's leading sustained hits 1, and in the Devastator Doctrine they score critical hits on a 5+. I would estimate the advance and shoot for a turn will be far more useful in this than the first. The Apocryphy itself can restore 1 model to the unit every command phase, and you get a CP on a 2+ when his unit is destroyed. I have no doubt he was leading the big 10-man squad of Desolation Marines to supercharge their firepower. At their more expensive points cost, it's even more value when you bring one back to life. Next we see Rabute Gulliman himself, who is of course the Warlord. As befitting a Primarch, he has 355 points and brings a load of special rules alongside his fearsome melee damage. He is toughness 9, with a 2+ save and 4+ invul, with 10 wounds. He has lone operative when within 3 inches of a friendly Space Marine unit, and he has a chance to resurrect after his first death. You roll a d6, on a 3+, he returns as close as possible to where he fell, but outside of engagement range of enemy units. He comes back with 6 of his 10 wounds, which means he should be able to do further damage. Speaking of damage, he has a bit of anti-Space Marine fire with his Hand of Dominion. He of course hits on 2s, making 2 attacks at a surprisingly long 30 inches. The weapon has Rapid Fire 2 at Strength 6, AP -2 and 2 damage. You should pick off the odd Space Marine or 2 throughout the game. In melee he is far more threatening, hit with the Hand of Dominion or the Emperor's Sword. The hand makes 7 attacks with lethal hits at Strength 14, AP -4 and flat 4 damage, a good profile to punch a tank with. The Emperor's Sword makes 14 attacks with devastating wounds, at Strength 8, AP -3 and 2 damage. That profile should tear through whole squads of elite infantry. It will also chuck out a fair few mortal wounds for enemies with good invuls. As the author of the Codex, it is fitting that he brings some powerful command abilities. He can either have an aura of OC1 and reroll Battle Shock and Leadership tests for any friendly Marine within 6 inches. He can use the Captain ability to allow a free stratagem on any unit within 12 inches. Most importantly of all, he allows you to pick a second Oath of Moment target, which will allow you to full rerolls after the first target is destroyed. This is a very potent ability, and I imagine this was used pretty much every turn. The other abilities are good, but they're simply not as good as a second Oath target. Overall, I think Gulliman is a bit of a monster, and is the main reason why many, myself included, thought the Ultramarines would be very strong in 10th. Next we have the aforementioned Desolation Marines, who do pump out some serious firepower. The Castellan launchers make D3 shots with blast at 36-inch range, hitting on 3s at Strength 4 and 1 damage. They are indirect, and with 10 of them, they do put out a lot of shots. This is especially true against big squads of 20 models, as you will get an extra 40 shots just from the last rule alone. The Sergeant's Bengal launcher adds an additional D6 shots with blast and indirect fire. This weapon is far more potent, hitting on 2s with Strength 7, AP -1 and 2 damage. When the squad remains stationary, they can ignore the indirect fire penalty, which makes all these shots very potent. The Apocryphy's enhancement will give all its sustained hits 1, and it will trigger on a 5+ in the Devastator Doctrine. If you fire at a 20-man squad, you will get on average 55 shots from the Castellan and a further 7 from the Bengal launcher. You will then get an additional 21 shots on average from the sustained hits, and if you are shooting at the Oath target, you will have full rerolls. That is a really powerful combo, and you can make it even stronger for 1 CP, using Storm of Fire to give the attacks an additional AP -1. If that wasn't enough, the Super Crack rockets can unleash some direct sight anti-tank fire, if needed. Each rocket makes a single attack at 48 inches, hitting on 4s with the heavy keyword. They hit at Strength 10, AP -2 and D6 +1 damage to do decent damage to armor. This combo is considered that good, it is seen in 2 more of the lists we will look at, with the Desolation Squad being taken in another. It is a great shame that this unit is not available at the time of recording, as it is considered to be one of the most competitive Space Marine units at the moment. Next we have 2 squads of Devastators, with the Sergeants taking Combi Weapon and Thunderhammer, while the rest take Grav Cannons. The Grav have Anti-Vehicle 2+ at Strength 6, AP -1 and 3 damage. The Anti-Rule will really help them against very tough opponents, useful for the 2 Knight armies for this list faced. If the unit remains stationary, they will hit on 3s, thanks to heavy, and they will ignore cover. The Cherub also allows you once per game automatic 6 to hit. I'd imagine they all piled into the drop pod for a turn 1 alpha strike against a big vehicle, which most likely had been selected as the Oath of Moment target. We see a max squad of Eradicators with 2 multi-melters. They are not quite the same premier anti-tank as they were in 9th, but they do like the upgrade to their Gravis armor. They are toughness 6 with a 3+ save and 3 wounds, not the easiest profile to get through without some dedicated firepower. Their special rule allows you to reroll all hits, wounds and damage rolls against monsters and vehicles, making them ideal to hunt those targets without having to use oath on them. They make one shot with the melter rifles hitting on 3s with heavy, at strength 9, AP -4 and damage D6. Their shorter range of 18 inches does hamper them a little bit, as they have to get within 9 inches for the additional 2 damage from the melter rule. The multi-melters have the exact same profile, but they make 2 shots and hit on 4s. With the full rerolls, especially for the damage roll, they should make short work of enemy armor if they can get in range. We see 3 Gladiator Lancers, which were featured in the first list. They are a popular choice, and it won't be the last time a list includes them. Next we have a squad of Inceptors with the Plasmas. They greatly enjoy the change to the way plasma works, meaning they only have to make 1 test after the unit is shot. They do make far less attacks, with each model only making 2 attacks. They hit on 3s at strength 7, AP -2 and 2 damage on the standard profile, with an increase of 1 to strength, AP and damage when overcharged. They do have the assault pistol and twin link rules, which makes them quite versatile. Their special rule allows them to land from deep strike not within 3 inches of an enemy unit rather than 9, although they cannot charge that turn. Regardless, this is quite a useful ability to have, if it would be beneficial to land that close. We see a squad of scout snipers for the forward deploy, and some decent precision firepower from the snipers themselves. They each make a single shot, hitting on 3s with heavy, at strength 4, AP -2 and 2 damage. They should pick off a fair few wounds from characters over the course of the game. They also potentially have the lone operatives rule, which will make them rather annoying to remove. As we know, the scouts are getting some cool new models. It'll be interesting to see if you can equip them all with snipers from one box. I personally think it would be a shame if the Scouts data sheet were combined into one, and you were unable to take a full squad of snipers. Finally, we have an Infiltrator squad for the utility. Cameron Gibbs went 5-0 at CavCon, a 56-player tournament. They came second in the individual rankings. Their first opponent was a fellow Space Marines player who was running Salamanders. Next it was Chaos Space Marines, followed by Tau, Necrons and Imperial Knights. They take the Dark Angel specific Unforgiven Task Force. Interestingly, they decided not to use any of the enhancements. The detachment rule changes Battleshot units OC to 1, which is useful when it comes up. We have 2 chaplains, one in Terminator armor and the other is on a bike. Unfortunately, it was not declared on the list which one was the Warlord. The Terminator chaplain gives the unit they are leading +1 to wound in melee and a 4+ feel no pain against mortal wounds. I would imagine they were leading the 10-man Deathwing command squad. The unit has a host of mini characters which bring their own rules. The Apocryphy restores one of the normal Deathwing termies in your command phase, which is a very useful ability for this big 430-point squad. The Ancient gives them all OC2, which is nice to hold objectives, and they will be pretty hard to remove. Finally, the Champion gives +1 to advance and charge, and allows the unit to heroically intervene for 0 CP. The extra movement is particularly useful in their slow 5-inch move. They have the standard 5 toughness, 2+ save, and 4+ imble with 3 wounds per model. I couldn't see a separate profile for the characters, so I would imagine they have the same stats. They predominantly have Thunder Hammers, making 3 attacks hitting on 4s at strength 8, -2 AD and 2 damage. Their profile is not as good against armor with the increased toughness in 10th, making the Chaplain's +1 to wound very useful when hitting tougher targets. The devastating wounds will also help with this. The Champion's Halberd makes 5 precision attacks, hitting on 3s at strength 6, AP -2 and 2 damage. The few power fits have the same profile as the Thunderhammers, but they hit on 3s and they don't have devastating wounds. The Storm Shields give the Baron an additional wound, making the squad even more durable, especially as you can restore these models with the Apocryphy. You can also give them -1 damage in melee for 1 CP, in case they needed additional durability. It is a rather points intensive squad, but it only costs 20 more points than a standard Terminator squad of 430. In my opinion, this makes the Deathwing one of the best ways to play Space Marine Terminators. The Chaplain on a bike gives the same +1 to wound in melee, but you can also give your ranged weapons devastating wounds against one enemy unit within 12 inches. These abilities will be very useful on the Ravenwing command squad he will be leading. The Ravenwing characters have the exact same abilities as the Deathwing ones. The bikes have a 12-inch move with toughness 5, a 3+ save and a 5+ invul with 3 wounds. I would imagine they will use to quickly get on objectives with the 3 OC per model, and it will help them get their guns in range. The combat weapons make 3 attacks, hitting on 3s at strength 5, AP -2 and 1 damage. They will chew through light infantry rather effectively, however their shooting is far more deadly. The Plasma Talons make 2 shots with rapid fire, which makes it 3 at 9 inches. They have strength 7, AP -2 and 1 damage on the standard, with each being increased by 1 when supercharged. The Apocryphy restoring models will help mitigate any loss via the single hazardous test for the unit when overcharging. The Dark Angel's detachment has a few stratagems to buff shooting. They can get lethal hits for 1 CP, and they trigger on a 5+ if one of your units is battle shocked. They can also get assault, heavy, and ignores cover on their weapons for 1 CP, very useful if you need to advance them. We see some more devastators, but these have the plasma cannons. We have 3 land speeders with multi-melters, which we know unfortunately will be retired by GW in the next Space Marine Codex. The Ravenwing land speeder vengeances will still be usable by all accounts. They are both armed with an assault cannon and plasma storm battery. They are fast with a 14-inch move, toughness 8, a 3+ save and a 5+ invul with 10 wounds. The battery has a 36-inch range, making D6+1 attacks with blast and twin linked. It hits on freeze with the normal profile being strength 8, AP-2 and 2 damage with the standard overcharge profile. If an enemy unit destroys a friendly unit within 6 inches in their shooting phase, it can return fire on that unit with its potent plasma firepower. We have some scout bikes which sadly have also been retired. We then have some more scout snipers. Finally we have a storm speeder Thunderstrike. Its ability allows your army to get +1 to wound at range against an enemy monster or vehicle hits a shot. A very useful ability for the copious amounts of plasma. To be fair, the Dark Angels do have a fondness of these Dark Angel weapons. The missiles make a single attack out to 48 inches, hitting on 2s at strength 12, AP-3 and D6+1 damage. The last Talons have the same profile, but they make an extra shot and have strength 9. It dishes out some potent anti-tank firepower, and the rocket pod chips in some anti-elite infantry fire, with D3 shots at strength 8, AP-1 and 2 damage. Christopher Radford came 4th at the Huge Leeds Super Major, an 195 player tournament. They went 5-1, beating Gene Stealers, Necrons, Thousand Sons, Tau and Custodes. They lost their last game to the tournament winner and their Eldari. So far we have not seen a single one of these Space Marine lists beat Eldari. Perhaps if they get nerfed, the Space Marine win rate will increase significantly, as they seemingly don't enjoy the matchup. We see many of the popular Codex Space Marine units, such as the Desolation Marines, Infiltrators, Land Speeders, Inceptors, and a big tank. We will focus on the unique aspects of the army, which takes their Black Spear task force. The detachment functions like Gladius, with 3 abilities you can choose at the start of your command phase, which can be used once per battle. You can either get sustained hits, lethal hits, or critical hits give your weapons precision. The sustained hits or lethal hits seem the obvious choice to me, with some units which chuck out a whole load of shots like the Desolation Marines. For 1 CP you can give 2 of your units one of the tactics, which is usual if you've already used them. The Hellfire rounds give anti-infantry 2+ and anti-muster 5+ on your ranged weapons for up to 2 kill teams. Of course it doesn't work on devastating wound weapons. It is still a potent firepower boost against the right targets. The Kraken rounds give you an extra AP and improves the range of your weapons by 6 inches. Finally, the Dragonfire rounds give your ranged weapons assault and ignores cover. They all seem very usable, and personally, I like how I've kept the flavour of the different ammo types now they are no longer on the weapons. As well as a good stratagem, the detachment has some good enhancements, 2 of which are taken here. The Watchmaster, who is the Warlord, takes the Tome, which allows them to choose a second over target after the first has died once per battle. I like how it allows you to select this after the first target has died, so you don't have to commit and then potentially not make great use of the ability. The Watchmaster has a captain profile, including the free stratagem, very useful for spamming the specialist ammunition. He also allows the unit he is leading to shoot and charge if the advancer fell back. I would imagine they led the Proteus kill team, which in my opinion has more shooting to make use of their buffs. The captain has the Thief of Secrets enhancement, which gives the unit they are leading +1 strength, damage and AP, which increases to 2 if they kill an enemy unit in melee. I would imagine they led one of the 3 10-man squads of Deathwatch veterans with the Thunderhammers. The unit gets reroll hit rolls of 1, which goes to full rerolls against the Xenos, very fitting. This will help them as the frag cannons and hammers hit on 4s. The cannons make D3 attacks at 18 inches with blast, heavy and rapid fire D3. They are at strength 7, AP-1 and 2 damage, and will like pretty much all of the shooting buffs Deathwatch can bring. They will hit hard in melee with their special Thunderhammers, which have the same profile as normal, apart from the fact they are strength 10 and do flat 3 damage. The buffs from Thief of Secrets are very potent for these weapons, potentially going all the way up to 5 damage a hammer if they kill a unit. I do understand why the other chapters are jealous of their very good Thunderhammers. I know as a Blood Angels player I am. The Proteus kill team takes a lot less hammers for more shooting. The 5 veterans do take a hammer, and the 4 frag cannons. There is a single biker and 4 terminators. The weapons and stats lines are the same as the other Space Marine units, other than the aforementioned better hammers. The unit's ability gives them +1 to hit when attacking units above half strength. The Deathwatch are in a good spot at the moment, with the detachment buffing the shooting of the already good Codex Space Marine units, with some added punch from their unique units. Mike Mattia came 9th at the 111-player Palm Springs Open, going 5-1. They beat a Guard and a Knights list, before losing to Gene Stealers. They went on to win their last 3 games, beat Custodes, Thousand Sons, and another nice list. They opt to not take the Blood Angels detachment, instead taking the Gladiator Strike Force. We see popular Space Marine choices such as the Apocryphy to lead the Desolation Marines and the Gladiator Lancers. They do take some Blood Angels units, with Lamartis as the Warlord. He gives -1 damage to the squad he is leading, and gives their weapons lethal hits. He also hits really hard himself, making 5 attacks of the Blood Crozius, of Strength 6, AP -2, and Damage 2. He is the perfect leader for the big 10-man squad of Death Company with Power Fists and Inferno Pistols. The Marines have a 6+ Feel No Pain, like Lamartis does as well. They reroll hits in melee, which will be very useful with the lethal hits from Lamartis. And if they are not within 12 inch of a chaplain, they cannot fall back and their OC is changed to 0. They can also reroll charges, which makes them much more reliable getting into combat. This unit will hit very hard in melee, and will get there rather quickly with this high mobility. It is also reasonably durable with the 6+ Feel No Pain and -1 damage. It is nice to see that some Blood Angels jump out infantry are competitive. You can also use the Honour of the Chapter stratagem, to give them +1 to wound when they charge, and an extra 1 AP in the Assault Doctrine. The only other Blood Angels unit we see is Brother Corbulo. He gives the unit he is leading a 5+ Feel No Pain, and an additional attack on their weapons. He makes a flurry of 6 attacks with Heaven's Teeth, hitting on 2s with sustained hits 1, at Strength 5, AP -1, and 1 damage. I would imagine they were leading the squad of Vanguard veterans to give their heirloom weapons an extra attack. It's a shame they no longer have the varied war gear. However, the 5 attacks hitting on 3s at Strength 5, 1 AP and 1 damage will tear through light infantry. They also have lethal hits on the charge, which will help out with a high volume of attacks. We see a Land Raider Redeemer, which I'm sure transported this unit up the field. The unit can charge after disembarking, and the toughness 12, 2+ save and 16 wounds should get them where they need to be. We see 2 assault squads with jump packs, who I'm assuming use their speed to capture objectives, and they can take out light infantry rather effectively. Personally, I am a fan of the new Assault Marine models. I would guess their rules will be Assault Intercessors with jump packs. This list does show that Blood Angels are struggling, only taking 3 unique units, instead relying on the best of Index Space Marines. It is a shame there are no Sanguinary Guard, in my opinion their most iconic unit. Matt Tarantine went 5-2, coming 10th at the Salt City GT, a 74-player tournament. They beat Blood Angels and Chaos Demons before losing to Aldari. They then went on to beat Space Wolves, Chaos Knights and Thousand Sons, before losing again to Aldari. Just to note, this was pre-nerf Aldari. All of the other lists were post-nerf, and as this list didn't take any of the Space Marine units that got a points increase, we thought it was worth including. They take the unique detachment, and as expected, take many of the strong Index Space Marine units, such as the Gladiators and Repulsors. The only bonus the Black Templar versions get is an additional multi-melter, which is taken on all of the tanks. The detachment allows you to choose one ability at the start of the first battle round to be active for the rest of the game. You either get lethal hits on your melee weapons, a 6+ Feel No Pain and a leadership of 5, a 4+ Impulse save against psychic attacks, as well as giving your melee weapons anti-psych 4+. Finally, they can give your melee weapons sustained hits 1. The fact you choose these at the start of the first battle round gives you a lot of flexibility, allowing you to choose the one which will help you the most in any particular game. I'm sure the 4+ Invul and anti-psych Avow was very helpful against this Thousand Sons player. The Terminated Chaplain takes Tannhauser's Bones enhancement, giving them half damage, and a 5+ Feel No Pain when the 6+ Feel No Pain vow is active for their squad. Due to this, I would imagine that this is the one that he used the most. They will be leading the big Assault Terminator squad, who will be rather durable and deal some big damage in melee. We see a single Intercessor squad, who I assume was used for objectives. We see none of their truly unique units, with the list taking the popular Scouts. We do see 2 of the Primaris Dreads, the Brutalis and the Redemptor. They both have the same profile of an 8-inch move with toughness 10, a 2+ save and 12 wounds. The Brutalis deals some sizable mortal wound damage when it charges. You roll a d6 and on a 2 or 3, the enemy suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 4 or 5 it is flat 3, and on a 6 they suffer d3 plus 3. They are equipped with the multi-melders and talons. In melee it hits on 3s and makes 6 attacks at strength 12, AP 2 and 3 damage with the strike profile. The sweep profile makes 10 attacks at strength 7, AP 2 and 1 damage, with both profiles having twin linked. The Redemptor on the other hand has -1 damage, making it considerably more durable. The Fist has the same profile as the Talon strike mode, but it makes 1 less attack and isn't twin linked. Both hit the Macroplasma for d6 plus 1 attacks with Blast. The standard is strength 8, AP 3 and 2 damage, with the overcharge being 1 more of each. With the Plasma still being a good generalist profile, and it's merely only a little behind the Brutalis, I can see why they took 2 Redemptors and 1 Brutalis. Finally, Chris Gunn and Space Wolves came 12th at the Northeast Open, going 4-1. The event had 88 players. They beat Custodes, followed by an Eldari player, the first of these lists to beat one. They then beat Chaos Space Marines before losing to Eldari in the next match. They then won their last game against Guard. I think we've established once again that Eldari are quite strong. They again take similar units to the other lists. Looking at 7 lists, including 5 divergent chapters, in my opinion, has given a good indication of what is considered strong in Index Space Marines. We have the Apocryphy Desolation Marine combo, more Devastators, more Gladiators, Infiltrators, Scouts, and a squad of Inceptors, although they take the Bolters. There is also a Calidus, which you've seen in a fair few Imperial lists. They use the Gladius detachment, which is not surprising at all considering the problems I previously mentioned with their detachment. It also allows them to take an Apocryphy, which they can't usually do due to their lore. We do see some of the unique Space Wolves units, starting with a squad of Thunderwolf Cavalry. They make 4 attacks with their heirloom weapons, which are the same as the Vanguard veterans. The Wolves make 3 extra attacks at the same profile but hitting on 4s. They are quick with a 10-inch move and have toughness 6 with a 3+ save and 4 wounds. When they charge, they get +1 damage to their weapons, making them pretty good at taking out Space Marines. The Wolf Guard Terminators have the same profile as a standard Terminator, with a more flexible loadout. Their ability allows them to ignore all modifiers to ballistical weapon skill, and they get +1 to hit against the Oath of Moment target. They all take Thunder Hammers with 8 combi weapons, 2 Storm Bolters and 2 missile launchers. With the boss from the Terminator Chaplain, they will be a fearsome unit at range and melee. They could also fish for mortal wounds, as all their melee weapons and all the combi weapons have the devastating wounds ability. The combi weapons also have anti-infantry 4+, so will be especially potent against those targets. The final new unit is another allied unit, a Vindicare Assassin. They do have a potent sniper with their Exeter's rifle, which makes a single shot hitting on 2s with devastating wounds, ignores cover, heavy, and of course precision. It is strength 7, AP 3, and does D3 plus 3 damage. Its special rules give an additional 3 damage when a critical hit is scored, and 1 unit shot by them can be made to make a battleshot test. Once per battle, when choosing its target, you can fire the shield breaker round from their Exeter's rifle. This means that no armor saving throws can be made against that attack. If you roll very well, you could pick off some powerful characters, but it is a bit swingy. It'll be interesting to see what changes GW made to Space Marines when their Codex is released, but they do have some competitive units and can perform well, although they do struggle against Eldari, as many factions do. If you enjoyed our content, please subscribe, check out one of the videos on screen, and consider using our affiliate links in the description. Thank you for watching.